Hello and welcome to the live stream on what are we going into today? First of all, I guess I should say evening, Tanya. How you doing?
Good evening. Good evening.
Lovely to see you as usual. But
happy solstice.
Exactly, happy solstice. I didn't get a chance to sort of say that to everybody. Happy solstice to everyone. It was at 3 o'clock in the morning here, wasn't it? And the solstice went through
3:40 or something obscene.
Yeah. So I will be out dowsing tomorrow again, testing the lines and stuff like that, and see if it's we'll do a video for that tomorrow going out. But yeah, did a video today all about the chakra sequencing and so forth, and talking about chakras and stuff like that. And it was basically, if anyone has got any questions, and we'll see if we'll be able to answer those questions today, going through. I'd like to say hello to everybody that's sort of here. I think there's a few watching at the moment. Is there a few? I can't see. But
yeah.
Okay, so hello everybody. Hello, good evening. And unusual live on the Saturday night. Normally we do it on the Sunday, but technical stuff allows us only to be doing it on the Saturday night. And I love doing the lives, and we have a great laugh. We had a great laugh the other week. Couldn't do it last week. And sorry to everyone that we couldn't do any live last week. But it was not possible. Traveling, no Wi-Fi, and that sort of thing. And I'm in some very beautiful places that have had no reception whatsoever, and which is very refreshing. I actually really enjoy that. It's really nice. Helps us to be at one with everything. So and a lot of deer now. So wake up. I've been waking up in the morning, and there's been deer in the back garden. Cody has had his nose pressed up against the patio doors, saying, "Please let me go, let me go, let me go walking in the garden." So I can't allow him to go walking in the garden because obviously he's very fond of deer, and he likes to kiss them lightly in his own particular way. So see, get some comments through now. So I'd just like to sort of see what's going on that front there. So we've had Frisia, happy solstice, Frisia. Lovely to see you. Hope all's going well with you and what have you. I'll check in with you in the near future about all the bits and bobs, as it were. How about you, Tanya? Have you felt a change of? Do you feel a different of energy today from yesterday?
It's a little bit lighter, a little bit more buoyant. Been pretty productive today, so yeah, I think this just seems a bit more free flowing.
Yeah, I feel that as well. Maybe I should explain a little bit about what goes on in the way of energy. So the Earth's energy, it goes through like the seasonal sort of changes. Like literally, if you're dowsing on a ley line or an energy line, and it's like a tidal bore, when you get a wave that goes up a river, and it goes up for miles, and it's a little bit like that. What happens and where you are in the world exactly at the time of the solstice, you get this either increase or decrease of energy. Now, the lowest part of the energy is during the autumn period in the southern and in the northern hemisphere. So the autumn equinox is where the energy literally drops out, goes down to its most basic form, regardless of whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere. And then you get the winter solstice. So let's just say an energy line is 12 paces wide. And then on the solstice on the 21st of December, or the winter solstice, northern or southern hemisphere, on the winter solstice, it doubles in size to go up to 24. And then on the spring equinox, it goes up to 36. So each time it goes up by its original amount. So once you head into the summer solstice, and then it goes up to its full whack. It'll be from a 12 line, it'll be up to 12, 24, 36, 48. And then from 48 in the autumn equinox, the energy line will just go zoom. And that's that flowing energy within the center of the earth that sort of like breathes up and down through the northern and southern hemisphere. And the thing is about the solstices rather than the equinoxes, because the equinoxes, on the spring equinox, you get on the spring equinox, which would be in the northern hemisphere, the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere, and the autumn equinox really in the northern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere drops right down, and the spring and the southern hemisphere goes up. And on the solstices, they tend to go up together. So, in the southern hemisphere, you would have experienced the 12 to 24, and in the northern hemisphere, we've gone from the 36 to the 48 paces wide, as it were. It's pretty much what goes up. And I've done it many times with a lot of my students where we've gone out on a line, dowsing on a line, and, you measure one line, and 10 seconds later, you measure it, and it's changed completely. And it does bring in different types of vibrations each time, because the equinox is like a pendulum that swings from one side to the other. And it's a moment where it's not at its extreme, because the equinoxes is where everything has 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of nighttime. And then on the solstices, that's when it all sort of changes and we go to the extremes of the pendulum. So it swings one way, and that's one solstice, swings back to the middle, equinox, solstice, equinox, solstice, equinox. That's how it basically goes. Just to sort of say how the Earth's energy vibrates, and it sort of, how it works with everything like that. Vita, hello Vita, happy solstice to you. Just catching up with a few sort of comments there. Kim, hello, happy solstice to you from New Mexico. Lovely to see you. Chrissy, how you doing? Good morning. Are you in Australia? Are you down that way? Are you? Happy solstice to you as well. Lovely to see everybody here. Did anyone manage to see those sort of? Because I've been doing the chakra sequencing, and I forgot a couple of people said to me, what is that chakra sequencing all about? And obviously I've been doing it for years, and it was really apparent to me. That's why I did that video today, because it will help. It's a really good tool, especially when you're working on projects in your life, or even on your spiritual path or your emotional path. It's understanding the sort of rhythm that you're in that can really help you to sort of have a process. Gemini's all like this, have a process of going from idea to completion. And sometimes, it's like everything in life. Obviously, we've got those rhythms of solstices and equinox, and then we've got the, El Nino and El Nina rhythms, which are much longer. So there's a multitude of overlaying rhythms, and that's the same thing within the chakra sequencing as well. You can sort of, extrapolate that sort of rhythm over a longish period of time. So it helps you in a period to say, like, if you're setting up a business, the first 2 or 3 months is getting all the ideas in place. You're using a particular type of energy. So you're using a lot more maybe intuition from your heart and from your sacrum, getting the fundamental desires and, your heart's desires, and also your third eye and stuff like that. And then you may be moving into your into your solar plexus energy after those 3 months, when you start doing things, and it may be connected to your throat and your sacrum, because you're talking to administration and stuff like that, getting permits or, getting things done basically before you even start your business. So there's a lot of ways of to get that rhythm to start working for you. Odilia, how you doing? I got to tell you, Odilia, I'm not going to tell you off. My name is Tom. It's not Thomas, and there's a very particular thing about that. And I'm not criticising you, seriously. But I used to have a real bee in my bonnet about people calling me Thomas when I was a young man, because of doubting Thomas. And I didn't like to be associated with the idea of doubting Thomas. So, my name and the reason my name is Tom Lawless, because my father is a journalist. He's a newspaper man, and he said like Tom Lawless would go perfectly in a byline on a newspaper. So I just thought I'd tell you that, Adelia. You know what I mean? I'll let you go. It's it's a long time since someone's called me Thomas, but it's actually Tom, Tom. So I just thought I'd say that. Yes. So you can use this chakra sequencing in a lot of different ways, but also at the same time, it helps us to understand who we are as people and how we confront things in life, because we all confront things completely differently. And another question, sorry, buddy, that's all right, man. Really, it's fine. It's not a problem at all. You didn't know, so I thought I'd better tell you. But the other thing as well is that although, and I go through the chakra sequencing on the signs, and it is slightly different to the general chakra sequencing, is because we all have different types of strengths and different types of signs of when you're born in different types of year, different times of the year. We can play in certain chakras a little bit better. Capricorn's a little bit more sort of mechanical and so they like thinking about the mechanics of things and spatially and construction of things. So you use different chakras in a different way to a different, say, for example, for Pisces, who is, much more towards the heart chakra, much more sort of like, very emotionally engaged in life, which is brilliant because we need all sorts, Obviously, Capricorn is the most perfect sign. No. I can't believe you didn't tell me off there, Tanya, for that, but
you've said it too many times.
Yeah, so we need all different types of people. So the chakra sequencing on the signs are going to be slightly different to the general chakra sequencing of the Earth, and usually we can play into the overlapping things, but also notice the things that don't overlap with the general energies. So you don't really want to be pushing that. You almost want to be allowing energy to help you, say like in the solar plexus is playing in at a different time to the general energies. It's like you don't really want to be pushing too much, because you might find a little bit of frustration and stuff like that can hold you back. But also at the same time, and this is the thing that we've talked about it many times, and we're telling you about the fact that most signs, you may be able to be the same sign as somebody else, but we're all living completely different lives, and there's multitudes of different aspects to different signs,
Yeah, and it depends on obviously what story you've lived, because everybody's, you might have the same blueprints, and this is going to come out in the theastroflower books, but
yeah.
you may well have the same blueprint, but everyone experiences a different life, and from those one has different beliefs, and those filter into our subconscious, and that filters into how we express ourselves. So it flows through. So
totally.
Yes, so you could have two of the same sign, but it does not necessarily mean they're going to express themselves in exactly the same way.
Yeah, and even if you have the same chakra sequencing as your fellow sign people, And I'm glad you found that funny, Vita. Yeah.
I think that was about you.
I think that's about me being Thomas, isn't it?
The best sign or something.
Oh, was it?
Maybe.
Was it really? Okay, well, that's fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. So, although you may have the same chakra sequencing as your fellow sign member, you know, as a fellow Pisces or fellow whatever sign you are, fellow Scorpio or Virgo or whatever. Even within the chakras, so the chakras are made up of multitudes of different loops of energy as they go round, which creates this flower and petal sensation. And people say that they turn in a particular direction, but they don't actually turn at all. If you imagine, like, if you go down the fairground and you see the flashing lights going around the fairground attractions, you get the sensation that the light is moving along a trail. And you can actually get the sensation that the chakra is actually moving, but it's not. It's just the energy that's flowing through at a certain a certain rhythm that gives the impression that the chakra is actually turning. But it's not. It's just the different petals are playing out in a different time, as it were. And they can move both ways. It depends on the timing. It's like when you're driving down the motorway, we've all done this. I used to do this as a kid all the time, looking at the wheels of the car that's next to you, and it almost seemed like the wheel's stationary. It's not moving going forward. And then you need to just change a bit of speed, and then all of a sudden it starts turning backwards. And that's what's happening with the chakras. So it gives the impression that it can be going backwards and forwards. And we were talking about that earlier, weren't we? About, can chakras turn one way or the other?
Yes, yeah. I was asking the question whether they spun clockwise or anti-clockwise, and you said that you did have an element of control about how they spin.
Yeah, because it's like if you've got a solar plexus that is spinning clockwise, for example, you're going to be drawing things into your solar plexus. So often when, shy people who don't like to speak a lot, or, they keep things locked up, as it were, your chakra is probably going to be turning in a clockwise direction, which is going to, it's in when we're doing geomancy, when we're dealing with the energies of the earth, when it spirals in a clockwise direction, it's like a the lid of any bottle. It's going downwards, it's going earth direction, and when it's going in an anti-clockwise direction, it's going upwards. The same thing that sort of happens with weather, through highs and lows, pressures in weather. The whole system, this is it. And I've said this many times, the idea that the great creator made us in the creator's image doesn't necessarily mean that the creator's a human being. But what it does mean is that we have exactly the same energy makeup as everything else that is in the universe. And it has that left and right hand wall that I was talking about in that video earlier on today. A really good video, actually, I thought I said. I really liked doing it, and it was quite important. Yeah.
We do have a question coming, Tom.
Okay.
From Frisia. Yeah. Do the chakras have specific signature patterns for illnesses, i.e. stroke or cancer, etc.? So do the chakras have a specific signature pattern?
I'd need to do a video on cancer, actually, because cancer is a very particular illness. Well, it's not. I wouldn't regard it as an illness. That's the thing. And I guess you could. To be honest, I've never examined that, and I will do, because I've been seeing a lot of people with that particular sort of ailment, and 99.99% of illnesses, not infections or infections that come from the outside world, as it were, but actual illnesses are created from stress. It's like when you're really, really busy, you're really, really stressed, your life is going amazingly, or you're working really hard, you're doing loads and loads. The moment you stop, you get a cold. And that's because your body's reacting to the stress that you've been taking in the whole time. So yes, I guess I'll have to investigate it, and I'd love to. I will investigate it, and I'll give you the heads up on that. But yeah, I would have thought so, simply because when you've got a chakra that's say like you've got a heart chakra and you've got a lot of stress emotionally, your heart chakra will be reacting to that sort of stress, and that will then create illnesses or physical complications within the body because of that frequency that we're creating through that chakra. So as the chakra changes as the chakra tightens, it's going to change frequency, so it may go up an octave. You're lucky I'm not going to start singing, but it's like so you can get that if you're constantly playing on a certain stress, then yes, it will be affecting it will be affected by your chakras, because your chakras will be reacting to it. There is another thing I'd like to say as well, is your chakras are like also, let's say you had an emotional relationship that went a bit south, a bit sour, and it was complicated for everybody and what have you. Your heart chakra, one of your petals, will retain that moment of stress, and it starts out the front and it gradually works around your heart chakra and goes round to the back, so you can filter it out of your body. But in the going future, after you've had that separation, and it could last for years, when you confront a situation or a relationship and that sort of thing, that sort of situation comes back up, that broken bit of petal will start shining, and that will then provoke the memories of that trauma that was created through that stress, and you will then be reapplying it within your life. So getting over traumas is really important, and it can really affect your chakra efficiency, really. I guess that's the best way to describe it, but affect your chakra efficiency. The other thing is, I didn't quite finish saying off this as well, is that because of the traumas and so forth, if you imagine the electricity is going down one of the petals, and because you had a complicated, let's just say the heart chakra, as it flows down one of the petals is going to be slightly deformed. So although you might have the heart chakra within your sequencing, if you do have traumas, it might be, although it could well be one of your strengths, it might be a little bit difficult to apply it in your daily routines because of that trauma. So you might be able, if you're repeating to yourself, I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to be able to get past this, or I'm never going to be able to make this business or this project, your chakras will take that position, and it will become a habitual sort of position, which will actually stop you from accessing, get it,
what are you trying to say?
Get access to, getting access to the full strength of that chakra, because of repeated things that we say to each other within our sort of soul. And that could be what happened when we were a child, of we might have had someone in our lives that sort of say, oh, you're never going to make it, you're not good enough. And that can produce in two ways, where you become a child that says, oh, in that case, I'm definitely going to prove you wrong. Or you can have also the other side of that, because everything's got a yin and yang, where the child sort of kind of goes, okay, well, in that case, I'm not going to make it. That sort of...
Can I ask a question here? Sorry.
Yeah, sure, please do.
But can you consciously reverse, like you're talking about the chakra spinning in a certain direction? If you were, say, lacking confidence through childhood influence,
yeah,
could you consciously change the direction of the spinning to feel differently, or to kind of reverse that, or to build confidence in certain situations? Is there a way of almost like reprogramming that from a trauma?
Yeah, most definitely. And the thing is, as I say, it's the changing of the speed of how the energy goes through the petals that give the impression that it's turning one way, and then when you increase the speed, as if like increase your um, your flow rate of energy, because you've got 100% energy. You're never missing energy, or you've never got too much. It's just the amount that it's the flow rate that's going through you that changes. So and if you change that rate, then it will change in another way, go in a different way. So rather than taking it in, you're now pushing it outwards, and it becomes a lot more confidence. But in order to in order to confront that, what you need to do is take off that trigger, which is triggered by that broken petal within the chakra. And that's where you've got to look at your traumas. And I usually do that with people. I usually go through and look at each trauma, and trauma doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It can be a very good thing. It can be much as getting married. A lot of people will say that even if they're very happily married now, they'll say, yeah, oh yeah, that was really traumatic, in a good way. And it's looking at your traumas without having the emotional attachment. So that's a lot of work I do with people. When you look at it with no emotional attachment, you can quite easily then pinpoint and kind of go, oh yeah, look, that's where I'm doing it wrong. So that's when you can really change the frequency and change from something that is detrimental to something that is much more creative or constructive, as it were.
And so Chrissy, following on from this, is saying, so having a good chakra rhythm will impact on your physical health.
Yeah, it will impact upon your physical health as much as your mental, as much as your emotional. It will impact on a load of different things. It will impact as well of how you remember things. So you can increase your memory, your clarity of memory, because your memory is not stored in your brain. That's not how it works. Your memory is stored in your aura, and your chakra will position itself to activate that memory, so then it comes back to the surface, and then we use our brain as a processor, like a computer, to kind of go, oh yeah, I remember now. And so you can most definitely sort of it can affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, multitudes of different ways. And once you know your rhythm as well, you end up, I could do a lot of things. I've renovated massive houses. You've got to be in a particular type of energy when you're renovating a house. And, so I can have that access to that energy when I so need it. But if I'm, there's no point applying that energy to something where it's not in alignment. So it's being in alignment with yourself and knowing what parts of your energy system to push more than others. So if I'm building a house, I'm going to be needing to use a lot more of my solar plexus and maybe my sacrum in combination with my third eye, in order to sort of have the strength and the determination to get something done and get the fundamental things done when I'm building, and also sticking true to the vision of how I want the house renovated. If I try and just do it with my heart, I could probably do amazing things, but technically it might not necessarily be very good. So you've got to be realistic of what you're trying to do in your life, of how you would apply your energy. But if I'm not applying my heart when I'm renovating, and there is times when you apply your heart, obviously, but let's just say I'm not applying my heart, that leaves then rather than that energy that I would be accessing. I can't even get that even word. Accessing. Thank you very much. I only need to hear it. Accessing, because I'm not accessing that that energy. That leaves an excess amount of energy for my solar plexus, my sacrum, and my third eye. So you can do these adjustments a bit like in a band. If you were saying like recording an album, you could like, you could, if the lead guitarist goes off on a solo a bit too long, you can just cut him out from his electricity and allow the bass player to come back in, for example. And it's very much like that. You've got to, and it takes playing with. It's not something that you learn like that. It's first things first. You've got to learn really to be in a 0 point. You can feel the different vibrations going through you. And as I said in the video, dowsing is probably the best way to do it. When we were doing workshops, Tanya, it opens up a whole new. You go from dowsing with dowsing rods to dowsing with your bodies, and it just all of a sudden it goes from something where you've got red, green, and blue as the colours that you've got to vaguely mix together, to all of a sudden have all the Pantone of all the colours that you could all the gradients that you could possibly want. And it opens up enormous amounts of doors of engaging with the energy in that sort of sense there. So, yes, completely formal. The question was, does it affect you physically? Yes, it does. Sort of thing.
Lynn says that makes perfect sense, and thank you. And also says that she loves your new hair. So
you love my new hair?
You can't really get away with nobody mentioning your hair.
Yeah, I know. I bought it down the supermarket. I actually bald as anything, and it's a wig and everything like that. But no, I had it cut. It was just, every 6 months. Every 6 months, I get a bit of a renewal going on. And then I just let it grow for 6 months. Boom, boom. Try and follow like the energy, as it were.
So. We do have another question from Chrissy.
Okay.
Can you explain the concept of Kundalini?
Well, Kundalini. Okay, so Kundalini is, if you imagine, let's say you've got a computer, and the computer has no electricity running through it at that time, but everything is set up in order for the electricity to flow. So a body, once you are born and you take that first breath with that abdomen, and as I explained, the crossing, I don't know whether you can see this, let me just see. The crossing point is right on your connection to every bit of energy is behind the sternum. And it's not in the heart chakra, it's not in the solar plexus. The moment you take that first breath, it's almost as if like the abdomen is pushing down on that energy point, and that's what sends everything off. In the meantime, before you're born, you're really dependent upon the energies of your mother, and therefore you take the heartbeat and so forth and etc. from that, and that's really sort of like your life support machine, as it were. But the moment you take that first breath, then what happens is you allow the electricity comes in. So if you let me try and see if I can find something that gives a really good example. If you imagine there's 2 points here. There's the electricity, and the point in the middle is your connection, and you get these 4 cables here. So you've got one going up one way, one going up the other way, and as they go up, they get pulled to one another, and they go around this sort of spiraling factor, and that is, if you like, is the Kundalini that's rising within you, and everybody has it. And when we say you awaken your Kundalini, is because you're becoming conscious of that energy that goes through you. And it tends to be, the Kundalini tends to be about the vertical energy, the energy that goes between the root and the crown constantly. So it's going like that. And it goes round one another like that as it goes up and as it comes back down. And as it's crossing over, so you can't see the 2 fingers, and as they cross over like that, they're actually not touching, but that crossing point there creates that discharge, which create the chakras and so forth. So our chakras, they're like hanging off the vertical energy, as it were, which creates where you get 2 energies going up past one another. It will push the energy out that way rather than up and down, which creates what is the vertical or the horizontal chakras, which is the sacrum, the solar plexus, the heart, the third eye and the throat. So that's 4 chakras. So in theory, in reality, we've only actually got 5 chakras like animals. But you could say it's vaguely split into 7, but we actually only have 5. And with that sort of like kundalini that sort of goes up and down, it charges that horizontal chakras. And those horizontal chakras make up your personality. Your vertical energy, the kundalini, for me, gives you that raison d'etre of why am I incarnated here and why am I experiencing these things in my life. It's tied a little bit to that, but it is an electromagnetic functioning. Like in a tree, its crown, which we call the top of the tree a crown, and the root of the tree is that is its main energy. Its horizontal energy, its personality is a lot less than, say, us humans who have crazy personalities. So they tend to use energies that, when you're looking at an aura of a tree, you tend to. So when you get the chakras that get activated or that blow out a bit of energy within your aura, within your magnetic field, it creates a wavelength that you can see with color, and everybody can see it if they, if you're in a particular position, if you're in a particular way. In particular, it's a state of meditation in a way. And with trees and plants, you tend to only see red and blue. So, the kundalini, I would guess, for me, is like the staff of Tot. It is that vertical energy that everything else hangs upon. I'm going to cough in 2 seconds. Excuse me. So yes, the kundalini is like the divine rhythm that is within you. And then, if the divine rhythm is playing 1, 2, 3, 4, then all of a sudden you can play to a different beat. I had to get a sing in there somewhere. So yeah.
We got another question, Tom.
Yeah. Got another question.
Christine.
Excellent.
Chrissy says thank you, by the way.
No problem,
Christine is saying, hi, Tom. I've watched a few spiritual teachers that talk about us now having 13 chakras or more, and that as the chakras evolve from 3D to 5D, these have changed colour. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we get into this whole dimensional sort of thing. We are tied to the Earth's dimension. And at the moment, we are the third rock from the sun. We're still in 3D. As it goes through the pole shift, it is going to be shifting to another dimension, if you like. And we are going through that process. I would have thought, more than anything else, it may change. On that video, I was explaining about how the third eye and the throat chakra is actually the same chakra, but it comes out as 2 different chakras. So as we go into a new dimension, as the chakras change a little bit their mechanics, it may give the impression that there's actually more chakras, but they're not more chakras, because all animals have that sort of basic sort of 5 chakra system. It's just the way it's set up that gives the appearance that it could be more. But they could be talking about, and I don't know who these people, the people in particular that they've been talking about it, but you could also sort of say that, like, if you look at the whole sort of human matrix energy systems, like you've got the nadis and etc. that are in your hands, which we use for healing and so forth, and you have lots of different nadis around, which is like mini chakras in a way. They could become more important, for example. If you imagine, let's say, like, the third eye and the throat chakra could double up again, then that creates another 4 chakras and so forth. The colors, the differing colors are according to the frequency of the vibration that they're actually, as they're functioning. And so it will also depend on what we are capable of experiencing. It's like if we just take color with what we actually physically see, we only have 3 cones within our eyes, where there's some shrimps that have 16 cones that can see hundreds of more colors than we can see. And it's a very small, minute band of frequency within the coloring that we can see. So, for example, in theory, we can't actually physically see fuchsia as a color. We make up that color within our mind because it's like a blind spot and kind of going, well, look, if we mix these colors together, in theory, it should look a little bit like that, pink, sort of fuchsia as a color. So, yeah, we are definitely changing dimensions and so forth. But I haven't seen that in anybody that I've worked upon as yet. So I can imagine, yes, it's very possible, but through all the healings I do, and I'm constantly looking at people's chakras, I haven't actually seen that. Now, I have seen like a changing of the karmic block, and we went into that on another live another day, and that has definitely changed. So could there be changes in chakras? I would definitely not write it off, that's for sure. But I think primarily we will always only have 5 chakras. I just think the mechanics of each of that different chakras will change. You know, because the root chakra actually goes down into 2 main, they're almost like 2 chakras. So in theory, you could say we've got 8 chakras. You know, because you get the root chakra that goes off like almost like your legs in a way, that goes off in left and right and stuff like that. So you could get that sensation or that sentiment that we've only got 8, you know, that we've actually got 8 chakras and not sort of 5 or 7 chakras, as they say. You know, I'm a bit of a purist in that sort of sense. So, yeah, it's. I think it's feasible, but I haven't seen any evidence of it yet. No. So, you know, I couldn't. You know, obviously, you know, I'd have to know about who that person is and what they actually say. And I've seen a lot of stuff. You see a lot of stuff on YouTube, which sounds really nice, and it's there's a word called dippity, which is basically saying a lot of profound words that don't actually mean anything. And there's a lot of that, and you know, I take is umbrage the right word? Umbrage with a few, you know, with a lot of stuff that's actually creating more confusion than helping people to make that transition. And you know, when that transition happens, we will all do it together. And of the spirits or the souls that decide to remain, or the souls that decide to move on, or the souls that decide to go back, and that's the whole changing of the dimensions, that 144, as they say in the Bible and stuff like that, 144,000, it could be 1,440,000, or it could be 14,400,000. You know, that 144, which is the 72, 36, 18, and we get back down to 9 and what have you, which is the ultimate number. You know, when we go through, we all go through together. And I think that's essential, that this is why I do what I do, is not necessarily to, it's to try and get everybody on the same page, because actually it helps not only me, but it helps my kids, help everybody to get on and go much further in life. But have I seen a lot of different chakras or new chakras that have been developing? No, I haven't personally experienced it. No, I haven't personally seen it on chakras. So I hope that was, you know.
We have another question from Lynn. She says, maybe a silly question, but when we speak of our sixth sense, could we be referring to our third eye?
when we talk about sixth sense, so like when you're talking about sixth sense, sometimes you walk into a place and you feel that there's something going on. There's some people who see things, there's some people who hear. I think the sixth sense, for me, that comes from the five sense, which is the primordial sort of physical senses, where we combine all those senses together to make the sixth sense. And I guess the third eye is that transitional sort of thing. If you look at the, what people or what is described as the third eye chakra has got a lot less petals than the throat chakra, because it's normally the back end, really. And the back end is a lot more simpler to the chakra system that goes through you like that than the front end. So I think the third eye is a very particular chakra. It's like that interface between the physical, emotional world and the greater spiritual world. So I guess you could say the third eye is an instrumental in your sixth sense, but it's only instrumentals because we're using lots of different senses to create that third eye sort of scenario. But yeah. Did you? Has everyone seen that film, The Sixth Sense? Amazing! What a great finish to it. But anyway, yeah. Another question.
Couple more questions going on. Christine just says thank you very much, much appreciated.
Pleasure, Christine.
She said she's found it confusing, and she's watched Diana Cooper, Davis, Essery, etc. She just says she's worried she's way behind in her spiritual evolution.
See, this is it. Now, this is why I have a lot of problems with these sort of things, and this is why I said it in that video. I said, everything I can do, you can do. The only thing I have on someone else is that I have had the fortune, or I have been fortunate enough in my life to quite literally spend the majority of the time in my life over the last 35 years exploring this. And that's the only difference I really have upon other people. You don't believe that, do you, Tanya? But,
It's difficult because you seem so accomplished, but yes, it's difficult to believe that. But I trust that, with time and with being completely open to learning and exploring and just to keep trying and doing, that you can reach that.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's like I can play the piano a little bit like Les Dawson pretty badly, but I can play the piano. But if I spent an hour every single day, and what do they say? You've got to do 2,000 hours before you
14,000 hours.
14,000 hours. So before you become a master. So I've been working much more than 14,000 hours on energy, and it's only because of doing stuff and repeating stuff and seeing what works and what doesn't work, which give me the best things. Now if I came to you and I told you a lot of stuff that was way out of your reach, which I could do, and that I get up to, you're going to feel kind of go, I'm not going to be able to make it. And unfortunately, I find that like almost like spiritual elitism, you know what I mean? And this whole I'm higher than you I really have a bad time with that. I really have a bad time that I'm a higher being than you, or I have a higher frequency than you. I have problems with that. I have very big problems with that. And if it makes you feel like that, seriously, if I make you feel like that, I wouldn't watch me, and I wouldn't watch other people who make you feel like that, because obviously they're almost making you feel bad to make them feel a lot more important. And I would have a lot of umbrage with those sort of people that make people feel like that. It's like when you go to a child, you never ask the child to come to your height. You go down to the height of the child. And at no point should you ever sort of position yourself sort of saying, I know and you don't know, therefore, just like, you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the work, you will get there without shadow of doubt. I'm sure you will. That was from who, Christine?
Yeah.
You will get there, Christine, I guarantee you. It's just, and I've been doing my workshop and I've done it for thousands of people. And literally, over those thousands of people, there's only 2 people that I specifically know of who couldn't get it, who just couldn't get it. And that's because they were stuck in this Cartesian sort of like, a mindset that they couldn't think out of. But as long as you can allow yourself to learn, there's no reason why you can't do it. And you're not far behind. We're all in the same. It's like when you're looking at the Tour de France and you've got that big long peloton and it's got hundreds of cyclists. When that peloton goes across the finish line, they are all considered at finishing at the same time because they are one entity. And that's what I'm talking about, the common sense revolution. So I'm not fighting, but you have to, I'm putting pressure on the old way of thinking in society, which we see in this world at the moment still. And also there's pressure to be put on other parts of society that seem to be, that appear to be enlightened, but actually they're self-enlightened, grandiose sort of thing. But I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about that because I just love truth too much. Yeah, go on. Sorry, got another question.
We have an excellent question from Frisia.
Ah,
When you go to point zero
yeah,
and read the energies, you're often on a line, i.e., by a church.
yeah.
Do you need to be on a line, or can you think about it and then click into it? Because obviously, some people live away from lines.
Yeah, of course. The reason I do it on the line because it is really a lot easier. It's like if I was to feel my arm, it'd be difficult to feel the pulse of my heart. If I was to squeeze hard enough, I could definitely feel the pulse, as it were, but not really too well. The moment I put my fingers on that pulse when I'm reading the pulse, I'll be able to read it a lot easier. That's the only way I do it. The reason I do it. But because it's like the chakras have a particular form, but the aura is much bigger. So if I'm actually sensing the vibration that's coming off of the aura, I can have access to, we can have access to what is going on in the way of chakras and stuff like that if the person so permits. You can't just break into someone's energy like that. It's not, that's not how it works. But yeah, you can within the morphic field. It just is a little bit more difficult. So if you're starting this process, I would always. That's why I say dowsing is really important because you're gonna get it straight into the jugular, the energy, and it's going to be so much more defined and a lot easier to understand. But there's no reason why you can't connect. Yeah, you can connect with anywhere. I've done this sort of thing whilst in planes. So this is when people say, well, I get my energy through my root chakra, and kind of go, well, what happens when you go up in a plane? Does your root chakra extend to 30,000 feet? Well, and this is why we get, there's a whole thing to do with pressure and stuff like that, but it's a very particular energy when you're up in the plane. It's not quite the same. So, and it's just adjusting for that. So it's like going from AM to FM on your radio for all of us oldies, or going from YouTube to another platform. It's just tuning into something different.
Is there anywhere on the planet that you find it particularly hard? And this is a question from me, that you would feel like there's any interference in you being able to reach your point zero? I mean, would you get affected by too much EMF? I remember you said you had an issue with certain a TV thing once that caused a lot of interference.
Yeah, well, okay. So you get the Wi-Fi at the beginning. Wi-Fi used to, years ago when Wi-Fi started, I used to get problems with Wi-Fi. It was causing interference, and it was really annoying. And I think that's the greatest pollution we have, more than anything else, is electromagnetic pollution. Personally, and then But then once you understand the frequency of Wi-Fi, you can then. It's almost as if you can play the opposite frequency, so it cancels it out. The only thing is there is, you get a thing called WPA, I think it is, which is a wireless protected, protective Wi-Fi. It's got a protection on it, so you need a security. It's WPS. That's what it is. Yeah, well done. Not WPA, WPS, and it's a protective thing. And the thing is, if I have to keep putting in that security thing, it becomes really annoying. Yeah, and actually, it was causing me when I was, living before in the family unit. Certain members of the family wanted the WPS, and I couldn't do it because it's actually causing me physical problems. And I think a lot of IBS is actually comes from that as well, from the frequency that comes out of the Wi-Fi. So yeah, I find it a lot more difficult to find around that. I was actually going to say I would like to go down to a nuclear power station and see what happens there and that sort of thing. I think also you could find it difficult, say like in around CERN. I haven't actually been there, but I'd like to find out CERN or where they got the HARP thing up in Alaska and stuff like that. I would have thought that that's when you get interference from electromagnetic frequencies. I think you might have difficulty there, but I've never really found,
So just finishing off from Frisia on that, and then Chrissy's got a comment as well. She says, do you have a preference for the line, i.e., the Michael or Mary line, or can it be any line? I mean, you've explained about the millions of tributaries and capillaries and how lines spread about, but is there any one line that you feel particularly connected to?
Well, Michael and Mary is like the Athena and Apollo lines. And it's just a way of differentiating between male lines are vertical energies, female lines are horizontal. And if you look at our reproduction organs in males and females have horizontal sort of thing, and males have vertical. And it's pretty much like that. So whether I'm on Michael and Mary line, doesn't matter if I'm on a church here, because you're going to get the same frequency because you get the masculine and feminine lines. So do I prefer masculine or feminine? It depends on what I'm doing. But I generally, for healing, I've always lived, even as a kid, on a line without even knowing it. My parents didn't really know about it, but we always ended up on a female line. And I've gone back and doused all the houses that I've lived in the past. It's my doorbell, don't worry. And I do, because female energy is a lot easier for the work I do, which is healing. But let's just say I was an architect and I've got to deal with construction. I would have thought it would be better to live on a male line. Now, they affect different parts of your body. And if you've got certain ailments, you may have those ailments much more affected if you live on a male line or a female line. But I prefer female lines. And you always tend to laugh on a female line. You tend to be a little bit more serious when you're on a male line. Female lines are much more jovial, I find. You get a lot more sort of springs coming out from female lines and stuff like that. Whereas on male lines, you get physical structures, sort of thing. Yeah.
Do you have a comment from Chrissy? She said, I think we're all born with this knowledge. This is just stepping into something you were talking about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
As in, we're all caught up in the mechanics of living. We all have the ability to tap into this.
Hang on a second, it cut out there. I do apologise.
Oh.
Yeah, the audio cut out. Can you? Okay.
Sorry, Chrissy said that she thinks that we're all born with sort of the knowledge to sort of tap in, and we lose it as we grow and get caught up in the living, in the mechanics of living. We all have the ability to tap into this knowledge source.
Totally. When a baby is born, a baby will not look at you in the eye. It will be looking at your energy. And it will know usually it will know very quickly the energy of its mother, because that's where their food is coming from. And there's a different type of connection between a male and their child and a female and their child, certainly from the very beginning. And it depends on whether the child is male and female and stuff like that. But my son, I remember we were playing football in the garden. He must have only been about 9, 10, something like that. And we were playing football when the sun was going down, and it's usually an easier time to see auras and stuff like that. And he just fell to the floor laughing. I said, "What's the matter? Why are you laughing?" He says, "You're just so blue. You're this big blue thing." And he was laughing at me. And over time, what happens is puberty. Now, that's the biggest changer, because it actually changes your sacrum chakra structure. So that ties into the 3D, 5D actually earlier on. Basically, what happens is the moment you get ovulation and male reproductive organs that start working, what happens is the actual sacrum chakra actually changes, which allows for a thought process which takes into account reproduction. So I don't believe I'm pretty much 100% sure children below the age of puberty can't have a sexual desire, because they don't have that shape of the sacrum in order to have that thought, that fundamental idea. So I think we're all very much born with it. People can see spirits a lot better when they're kids, because they're not yet, as you say, they're not crowded out by, "Oh, you can't do this, you got to do that," sort of scenario. So yeah.
I've got another question, very good question from Lynn.
Okay.
With dowsing, do we need to do something to connect, like cleanse the rods before we use them? I've never used them, but I'm very interested to try.
You should come to my workshops and see the rods I give you. You'll be testament of that as well, won't you, Tanya?
Yeah, you don't clean your rods.
No, I don't clean my rods, and I can understand that the rods become very personal to you, like a pendulum, and they can recognize your frequency, or you can recognize the frequency very quickly. But my dowsing rods that I give to people are either made up of metal coat hangers, or the wire, the copper wire, and the electrical wires. Because when I teach people dowsing, by the end of the weekend, you're not using your rods anymore. Rods and pendulums, although they're very good at accessing a certain degree, it's like working on an abacus and working on a Mac computer. There is a complete difference between the two. I find dowsing rods very good as a visual aid so it helps people to see where I'm going through the ley lines and energy lines and stuff like that. But generally,
it's imperative to start with the rods to just logically validate the connection, because until you do it, you don't believe it. But when you do it with rods and the rods move, then that's the validation which can lead you on then to trusting your body.
Totally. And what I do teach in the workshop is the way in which you open up to this energy. It's like a lotus flower. You can't just go there and sort of kind of pull all those petals out at the same time. During the workshops, they open up one by one, so you get to a point where you have that flower. And, you've got to do that. It's like asking a 3-year-old to go and run, to drive a car. They're not even going to be able to reach the pedals. So you've got to go through the whole process, really, I think, more than anything else. But yeah, cleaning your rods, I think, is a good idea. You can do that if that's so fine with you. It does keep them clean, I guess, but I think you can bypass that very quickly without having to worry too much about that, personally. And the way I teach it is, the idea is to get past dowsing rods as quickly as possible. you know, within those sort of things, you know. So, yeah, no, you know, my dowsing rods, I think they're in the car at the moment. My dowsing rods are very thick, like pencil size bits of copper. You know, a good friend of mine, Hamish Miller, used to be. He was a used to do iron work. Iron. He was a blacksmith sort of thing. So he used to make his out of iron. And as I say, you know, you can make them out of coat hangers. People make them out when you're looking for water. You can use a bit of hazel. You know, there's multitudes of things you can use. As long as it's got a pulse, it will work. You know.
Lynn says thank you very much.
That's all right, Lynn. Pleasure.
Well, Kim's just come up with a comment. She says, I've doused water, electric lines, and even gas lines. Originally, I was only using a heavy gauge copper wire cut into two, 14 to 15 inch pieces. I bent the ends for handles and they just took off. Perfect.
Bingo. It's exactly what it's about. And once you do that, once you can, it's like turning on an electrical, you know, it's like turning on a light with a light switch, and you know that works. And then you can start working out, kind of going, well, if I put in a different watt, I get a different watt light bulb. I get a different, still the same electricity flowing through. I get a different light coming off. And, you know, that's that whole process of opening up and realizing that you can use different light bulbs that go way beyond dowsing rods. And we do open up. And as people open up like that, people on my workshops tend to get a true experience of the awakening of their Kundalini. And it is, I can't tell you what happens because otherwise it would ruin the workshops for you. But, you know, there is one particular vision that comes out of people when their Kundalini is waking up, and it is phenomenal. And as I said, I've done it for thousands of people. And I get that repeated on multitudes of workshops where the same symbol and same thing comes up in the visions. So,
Christine's asking on the matter of a pendulum, does it matter what hand to use when using a pendulum?
No, it's like, what hands should you use for writing? You use the hand that you can write with. You know, everyone was forced during the 50s, 60s, 70s and what have you you're not allowed to write with your left hand, you've got to write with your right hand. And left-handed people kind of go, oh, really? It's really complicated. Why are you making me do that? I'm really good left-handed, but I'm hopeless right-handed. And, you know, then they get marked down because they got untidy handwriting. You know, whatever works for you, that's you've got, what I do is I teach people to learn. And once you know how to learn, that's it, you're off. You know, you can learn anything you want. And the thing is, everyone has their own way of learning. You know, I've got a lot of I'm very spatial, where Tanya, you're very much more sort of like visual, you know. So everyone has their own strengths. And what the idea is in the workshops that we do is trying to, rather than just concentrate on your superpower, try and bring the others up to the similar sort of level, then you become superheroes. You know.
I've got a question here from Chrissy. She said, maybe off topic, but I've seen psychics using dowsing rods to ask questions of guides by asking yes/no questions.
Yeah.
Is there validity to this method? Oh, I've tried this myself.
Yeah. How'd it go for you then?
It definitely does respond.
Yeah.
So I have to say it does respond.
Yeah, but just think, you can't answer every question by yes/no. You're so limited. That's the thing.
Yes.
That's why. Yes. That's the idea in what I do, is to try and help people gain access to all the other things that you could use in your intuitive and your spiritual sort of sense and stuff like that, which can then open up the full conversation. It's like having a conversation with someone with only binary, you know, using a computer only on binary, although it's based upon that, you know, yes and no. it goes way beyond binary. So, you know, yeah, I totally get that. I can understand the yes and no. Yeah, I can get that. I don't have a problem with that. With a pendulum, it will spin one way for yes, the other way for no. If it goes like that, it's a kind of like maybe. So what do you do with maybe? You have to ask another question, and it's long, it's laborious. You rely less upon your own personal intuition, and we learn less because we're relying upon just the yes and the no. So, you know.
Have you got a physical sensation for yes or no in your body?
Yeah. I tell this to people because when I take hands with someone when I'm doing healings, so first of all, basically I take them to point zero when I'm doing healing. I put them in a point of zero. So the moment you put someone in an energetic point of zero, the moment you let go, they then will show you very quickly what is not working, because you can see the things that are going out of sync. And I teach people this, and when I do that with their hands, it's really easy to see just through the energy of someone when they have difficulty with the yes and the no in life. So I'll explain it this way. I explain it also within my healing. So if you imagine, I don't know if I've explained this on a video before, but if you imagine I'm sitting in the garden, the sun is out, I'm having my cup of tea, and this young lady comes around the corner with a car, and she's got
you have done this one before.
I have done it, and she's got a flat tire, and she asked me to help her change her wheel, it's a flat tire, and I don't listen to my mind. I listen to my body first, and my body will react to that demand in a way that, for me personally, when my abdomen starts tightening and my back starts straightening, that's my body saying to me, Tom, just say no. And if my heart starts, I get a little bit of heart palpitation, if I get like a lifting sensation within my arms and I get this sort of like goosebumps in a way, that's my yes. And sometimes I can get both. So sometimes I have to say to the person, leave it with me. I'll see what I can and can't do to help, So with that person there that came around with the tire, I said, no, I can't help you, because I stood up, I listened to my body, and my body said, don't help that person change that tire. So I said to the person, no, I can't help you. I sat back down in my chair in my garden with my cup of tea, and this young lady was looking at me and sort of saying, what kind of person are you? Not even going to help me with my tire? That's really out of order. And then 2 minutes later, a young man comes around the corner, so she asks him, and he says, yeah, I'll help you. And so she looks at me with all the scorns and the daggers of the world. And then 2 years later, those two people get married. But if I had said yes, they may never have met. And I think the yes and the no is really important. And the yes and the no does not get decided there. It gets decided in what you feel in your body. And then logically, then it goes up to there. And logically, my body has turned around to me and said, if I was you, say no, Tom. And my logic turns around to me and says, say no. So I say no. And no doesn't necessarily mean, nasty thing at all. I won't say no just to spite someone. That's just really mad. But, we don't know the reasons why, and should never ask why I should say yes or no. All you need to know is whether you should say yes or no to someone. That's all. So, yeah, you can physically feel it within your body, without doubt. Without doubt. Yeah.
Peter said we likely all have the ability as well to get the yes-no cues from our own bodies, but we ignore it or are not in tune enough.
No, more often than not, Vita, is that we're too much inside our heads. So then we come down to the logic of kind of going, oh yeah, I've got to say yes, because if I don't, I'll be perceived as a nasty person. I prefer to be that young lady perceives me as a nasty old man, so she could meet the love of her life. And, this is where you got to have a little bit of kind of like, actually, I'm the only person I can see what I do with my hands. You're not my judge. I'm my judge. I'm not your judge either. And I work upon that sort of basis and just try not to be, unfortunately at the moment, everyone is in their heads, especially with internet, telephone and everything like that. It's all within the head. And it's a really good way of mind controlling people. So I would be a lot more within our body, So, yeah, I understand that, Vita. Yeah. But just don't. That's what the whole finding your 0 point energy and doing like a tea meditation every day, which I've got to do a video of. Still haven't done the video of the tea meditation. I can't believe it. I do apologise. But that is really a quintessential to getting out of your head and living in your body. Because that's only 10% of your body. And living all your time in that 10%, you're ignoring 90% of your greatness, of your capacity. Why would you do that? We're not engaging with our heart or with our stomach or our solar plexus or our sacrum because we're in the head, because we're taking that energy from the rest of our body and putting it in our head. And that's the most common problem today for people. It creates enormous amounts of problems, just being too much in one's head, So, yeah, Rita, I totally get it. So, yeah, I hope everything we do here at the Astroflower and part of the Astroflower, the origins of the Astroflower, was to try and help people help themselves. Because when that happens, I can then go back to just planting tomatoes in my life. It's a very selfish reason. No, I'm only joking. But, when that happens, selfishly, because everyone else is in a good way, it makes my life in a much better place. I don't feel the pain of humans doing really stupid things in life. And sometimes when you look out in that world, in the human world, you just kind of go, at what point did that person wake up and kind of thought that was a good idea? But it has to do with power and the illusionary sense. I think it's Bob Marley who said, a rich man's place is in the city, a righteous place is in his holy place. And I'm much more of a righteous man than a rich man, sort of thing in that sort of sense.
Kim's just asked a question. Have you heard of or used grounding or earthing mats? What do you think of them?
I think I've heard of them. I've never used them because I do my tea meditation every day.
And you walk barefoot everywhere.
And I walk barefoot everywhere. That really helps. That really does help. That really does help. But also being in your body and realizing how fantastic it is. As much as the third eye and the brain is fantastic, the body is amazing as well at the same time. And once you get access to that, you'll get this sensation that you're grounded. But because your energy is connected to, your connection to the universe is behind your sternum. It's not actually in your feet. Your feet just helps you to have that circulatively in motion within your root chakra. It keeps you grounded as such. And what are grounded mats? What are grounded mats, Kim? What are they like? Have you tried one? Tell me, please do. Tell me what you think of them. What have you done? How do they work? What? I don't actually. I've got no gemstones. I've got nothing. I think I've got everything I need in my own body. The Creator gave me everything that I would ever need. So, and I try and advocate that as much as possible. So, but I don't know anything about them, so I don't know how they work. I don't know what they are. Maybe you could tell me briefly, Kim, what they're all about.
Lynn says, I've meditated for years and it's changed my life profoundly. It's not what it's given me, but more what it's released in me.
Yeah. So meditation helps you to connect to greater understanding. So it's not giving you that understanding because you know it already. But what you're doing is through meditation, through changing your frequency. So the moment I can meditate even now pretty much without the breathing thing because it's a sensation as well more than anything else. The moment you go into that, you can access your understanding that you've already had. And as you said, it allows you to express your understanding rather than actually something that it gives to you. Totally get that. Totally get that.
And Vita says, a couple of days ago, as I caught myself focusing on something in the past, I simply told myself to come back to the present. I want to remember to call myself back to the present more often.
The here and now is essential. The past is like you wouldn't drive your car looking in your rear view mirror, would you? Okay, you're looking in front of you, and I guess you're looking towards the future. But you know, it's like the future and the here and now. I can have a massive discussion on that, on what the here and now actually is like. So when are you born as a spirit? Is it the moment your parents decide to make love? Is it the moment of the finality of love? Is it the moment of the fertilization of the egg? You know, or is it go all the way up to the moment where you cut the umbilical cord, or is it the moment you take that breath? And I think the here and now is a little bit elastic in a way, but yeah, there is a point where and when you're going forward, you do need to look into the in the rear view mirror and the side mirrors to making sure you're not causing any troubles and stuff like that. And retrospection helps you to understand your future. I've forgotten who it was. Who wrote that? Said to know your future, you should know your history. I've forgotten who it said. The whole idea of history is his story. So yeah, I totally get that.
Vita's just said she's got experience of the grounding mat.
All right, cool.
She said, I've been sleeping on a grounding mat for almost a year now, and I've certainly noticed improvements in sleep and mood. I've recommended it to 2 others, and they've noticed sleeping better and lowered blood pressure and improved sciatic pain.
Okay, so I can imagine that there's some sort of like copper filament that goes through this mat, as it were. Is that right? Is that how it works? I don't know how. I need to know what a grounding mat is made of.
I mean, presumably there's better connection to the ground than not. If you were in rubber-soled shoes, you wouldn't have any connection. Whereas if you were lying on something that was genuinely connected to the earth and you were lying flat on it, there's got to be some benefits in that. It's like when lying on a beach, you feel so much better, don't you? Because you're lying fully on the earth.
Okay, so I'm looking at it now on the internet, and yeah, it seems to be like a black mat. Okay, let me just see what it says here. Let's see what it's made of. Oh, it's got an electrical pulse that goes through it, doesn't it? Okay, so yeah, it's an electrical pulse. So basically, that's what I'm saying with a copper wire that's going through it.
It plugs into the grounding hole on your electrical outlet.
Yeah, through so basically, it's not electrical. Obviously, you have your positive and your negative in your electrical, in your plug, and then you have the earth thing. And yeah, I can imagine that totally earths you. Yeah, I actually can imagine it really working. Yeah, I think that's yeah, I can totally get that it working. Yeah, I totally get that. That's why before, when we made our beds out of natural fibers, it was a very good way of grounding. Now we've got synthetic fibers. That's where things get a little bit lost. So yeah, I totally get that. I can see that now. I've just looked it up. I totally get that. I can totally get that working. Yeah, but I think it's very, as I say, I'm a bit of a stickler. I'm a bit of a Puritan, and I reckon you can sort out a lot of those problems by actually engaging truly in your interaction with energies. I think, but I can understand it totally helping. Yeah, I can understand it totally helping. It only has the third prong. Right, yeah, okay, the third prong, the one at the top, that's the grounding thing. So then that's copper wire that goes to another copper wire, which goes into a spike, which goes into the ground, which earths the electrical current. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I can understand it totally working. But let's just say you actually grounded your energy and you took out the synthetic fibers of your bed and so forth, and in your mattresses, because before you used to have those metal springs in the mattress, which is going to ground you. It's yeah, I totally get how it works, but I also think you can put yourself in a position where you can ground. It's like how you orientate your bed according to the magnetic field. It's like dogs when they sit down or when they go to when they defecate, they tend to defecate north south in alignment with the magnetic field. So there's a multitude of things that go into play, and I can imagine the grounding mat being something that really works for you. I'm going to cough it, so I'm going to cover my microphone. Excuse me. Do apologise. Yeah. So yeah, I know. I can understand that. Okay. What did Kim? Oh, Kim said it plugged into the grounding part of the electrical outlet. Yeah. I totally get that. So it's not an electrical current that goes through it, which is good. That's why you should never sleep in beds where they've got that electrical heated sheet. Really bad for you. Really bad. I remember years ago. Do you remember when I was doing the readings on the channel about 3 years ago, and I was doing it in the loft of my parents' place, and there was no insulating, and it was in the middle of winter, and I was literally doing it. It was only like 3 degrees, and I had one of these warming warming blanket, and I couldn't cope with it because it was not good in the end. It was really bad. I wouldn't advise heated, covers, as it were. I don't think that's a good idea. But the grounding mat, I go for it. Yeah, interesting. I always take care of myself. Don't you worry about that, Vita. I'm all right. I know when my bus is leaving, and I might be coughing all the way there, but I'll get on that bus eventually. No worries. I'm okay. Thank you for your concern. Anyway, it's very beautiful for that. Do appreciate it. So yeah. Okay. Oh no, I sleep all winter long on an electrical blanket. That comes from Christine. Do you have problems with circulation in your feet? Do you have problems with sciatica nerves as well? Lower back pain and stuff like that by any chance? During the winter a lot more than you do in the summer? It's very possible. I'm not a great, personally, as someone who's, when you're connecting to energy, you can really feel it. So I personally would avoid it if you can. You know what I mean? I understand that, there's no point dying of cold either. But, yes, I have terrible circulation. Okay, don't ever wear Crocs. Crocs are the worst shoes in the entire world for that sort of thing. Don't ever wear Crocs. If you don't have diabetes, walk bare feet whenever you can in grass, and that will help your circulation enormously. Just doing basic things can really help you out more than anything else. My lips go blue as soon as I'm slightly cold. Really? Oh no. Oh no. Maybe a little bit of cardiovascular will help you as well. I'm putting on a scarf. Do you remember in the old days, you know what I mean? You used to wear pajamas. Some people used to wear hats and everything, a night hat and everything like that. You know, I wore Crocs today. Oh, don't wear them. Seriously, I love Crocs. They're very, very comfortable, aren't they? But they're not good. They're really not. I bought one pair of Crocs. I wore them, and this was like 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, whenever they first came out. And yeah, no, I was getting problems, circulation problems within no time, so I literally stopped wearing them. So yeah, but I do understand how comfortable they are. I actually went and bought a really great pair of wooden clogs after that, because of that, because I didn't want the Crocs sort of thing. So yeah, we've been going for a long time again, haven't we? Tanya's going nodding. You can't say it, but Tanya's going, yeah, we've been going for some time now, Tom. I don't mind. I love doing this thing. I could do it all night, but it does get a bit long sometimes for some people, and I do apologise. Well, I'm not apologising, but I guess we should be saying sayonara, adios, ad wiedersehen, arrivederci. Is that another one? What's Italian? Arrivederci. Arrivederci. See you later. I guess we should be saying that very soon. So Chris is saying
it's the longest day though. So.
Yeah, it's the longest day in the Northern Hemisphere. Shortest day in the Southern Hemisphere. So, swings and roundabouts. Please tell me the Birkin socks are good for us. I won't cope after the Crocs tip. Yeah, Birkin socks, aren't they made out of cork? If they're made out of cork, yeah, then I'd go with that. I can imagine Crocs actually being really good if you had like copper filaments that went down between the sole and up into the feet. Yeah, Birkin socks. I like them. But then again, I don't wear. I've got actually, funny enough, my family over Christmas gave me three different types of people in the family. Each of them gave me a pair of shoes, and there's even some of them that I've got in my car that have still got the tissue in them because I love being bare feet. So it's one of the joys of being a human. Once you go bare feet, after a while, the soles of your feet become so thick that I'm saving hundreds of dollars and pounds on shoes every year, and I'm not wasting and creating pollution because I'm not wearing shoes. But then again, when I was a kid, and I grew up in London, this is weird. This is almost inverted. Up till about the age of 4 or 5, I was constantly naked, running around with a pair of red Wellington boots as a young kid, even in London, and going playing out around my neighbours and everything like that. And my mum used to get a telephone call every now and then, kind of going, "He's in my garden again. He's got nothing on, but he's got his red boots on. He's only running around in his red boots." Birkin socks, if they're made of cork, great, go for it. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Yeah, do it. Yeah. So I'm glad you got that. So yes, I think it's time to say nighty night. I thank you everyone for being here, because without these sort of questions, I've learned a lot tonight. I've learned a lot about grounding mats. We all learn, and this is it. Together, collectively, we all gradually get ourselves to a better place, and it's that is how we're going to create a better future for everybody and everything. Okay, so thanking you very much indeed for everything and everyone. and being part of the Astro Flower, of being here, commenting, liking, sharing, subscribing, all of those sort of things. Absolutely lovely to see. It's great to meet everybody. And, we will see you soon again, without shadow of doubt. On another video or on another live. And hopefully, we've got a lot of things going on at the moment. I've got a lot of stuff going on in my life, that I'm changing regions and stuff like that. And I'm trying to desperately sort out some workshops in the near future, but I need to get certain things settled before I can do that. And the moment I do, I will be announcing dates and so forth, but it's gradually getting there, slowly but surely. So yes, and hopefully in the future we will meet on one-to-one, as it were. I guess there's all for me left to say, rather than me coughing too much, is thank you very much. Don't forget, life should be fun, so please do. Hang on a second, I'm actually going to say good night from Tanya.
Thank you. Good night.
And good night from myself. Don't forget, life should be fun, so please do enjoy.